Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the RepPath Podcast. Very excited about today, guys, because this is if you want to call it a controversial topic. I did a post on this a little over a week ago comparing pharma and med device and which one is harder. Okay, so I'm sure I'm going to get some fiery comments. I got a ton on LinkedIn when I made this post. So please, guys, bring it on. So that's the whole point of this. I'm here to be very upfront, very transparent. I know you guys are going to tell me about a friend or a cousin or whoever that had a different circumstance. That's fine. I'm all about that. I'm telling you about what I know. So please make sure that anyone on this call, I want your interaction. Any questions, guys, from this moment on, make sure you're submitting it into the chat, and we'll handle these about halfway through. So about 30 after, we'll go through some of these questions from the crowd. But I know a lot of you are going to have questions about this, especially if you haven't gotten in the industry yet and you're looking to break in. It's a great call to be able to make a decision or at least hope to lead you down a path, either down device or pharma. And for all you reps that are in the industry, I would love to have your interaction and say, hey, Joe, that's not the way I experienced it. So please, interaction, that's what I want. Questions, please make sure you submit them. As always, too, guys, if you want to see the recording of this podcast, make sure you're subscribing to my YouTube channel, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. You could see the link right there in the at the bottom of the screen. And we're live today on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
We're live, and we're on a part of every podcast platform, guys. All for you individuals that are looking to break into this industry. The RepPath Academy is your ticket to get there. So make sure you go on reppath.com. Again, you can see the link right at the bottom of the screen. Check out our website. You can learn more about the Academy. You could see how quickly we get individuals in, the companies that we've placed with, and then most importantly, those testimonials, guys. Those are real people that are in your position that had no clue how to get into this industry. And we worked with them and helped them get in there quickly, and they're doing well in their new roles. So please make sure you do that. And then other than that,
my name is Dylan Desermo. I wanted to make a quick video for Joe Licata and the RepPath community team and just give them a huge shout out, praising them for the work that they've done with me along the way to help me get on in the medical device industry with a great company and a great starting role. They were there to support me every step of the way, back me every step of the way with great information and tools to help me succeed and, make my move into the industry. And y'all are nothing less than fantastic. And if I had the choice to do it all over again, I would invest with Joe. Thank you.
So appreciate that, James. So guys, Dylan, just so you know, he was placed within 3 weeks. He's an outstanding individual. So, but he put the work in. So that is the non-negotiable that we have there. You have to put the work in. We don't have a magic wand that just hands out jobs, guys. We're going to give you the tools, but I just need you to put the work in just like you would with your personal trainer. They're not going to get you fit. You're going to have to do the work, but they're going to be there to coach you and get you there. And that's what we do. So please make sure you check that out. Other than that, James, did I forget anything? Think we're good?
Oh, you got everything.
Good, man. Thank you. So let's dive right into this topic today, guys. Again, what's harder, pharma or device? That's a very loaded question. Okay. It depends on the lifestyle that you want. So let's give a quick overview of what you're getting into. Okay. Because some of you might not realize this, because if you ever say to a recruiter, yeah, I'm open, pharma, device, I don't really care, and you're looking to break into this industry, or especially even worse, say that to a hiring manager, they're going to see someone that didn't do their homework, because these are two totally different jobs. After we go over some of the subtle differences, we don't have enough time in an hour to cover everything, but you should have a good understanding, like, wow, that's not for me. This is for me, or vice versa is for me. If you don't know that, then it shows someone that really didn't put their effort into learning about this role. Because to me, it's like becoming a carpenter or a lawyer. I mean, two totally different fields. That's the way I look at it. Now, you could transfer from one to the other. You could do well Of course, we're all still calling on doctors. There's a lot of similarities, but at the end of the day-to-day is much different. So that's what we're going to start with today. So let's start with pharma. Okay. Typical day. Again, guys, you're going to hear reps say, I'm in the field from 8 to 5 every day. That's not true, but we'll say that most reps are in the field during the day. Okay. And they're going in and out of doctors' offices. So they have promotional material. They'll have samples. They want to get in front of a doctor. They walk in that office. They have a receptionist behind the front desk. And you're trying to get from that receptionist into the back where the doctor is seeing patients to get a minute or two with that doctor. And sometimes that's what happens. Some offices could say, hey, go right in the back. He's seeing patients, but you'll catch him and you'll stand outside the door. You'll wait for the doctor to pop out. He'll be there with his notepad, either taking notes on the patient, entering whatever in his iPad about the patient. And then you're trying to catch him. Hey, Dr. Jones, you got a sec? I just want to go over this one, piece of information, or you start asking him questions. That's like a perfect scenario. Okay. Majority of the time, you can't even see the doctor. They only do a breakfast or a lunch. You set up that appointment with the receptionist. You'll leave some promotional material or whatever you have about your product, and then you go on to the next office. So you're not spending hours and hours in a hospital, in an operating room. You're in and out of some of these practices in a minute or two. So they typically want you to see 10, 12, maybe 15 offices in a day. A lot of times, guys, you can bang this out because even the meetings you have sometimes don't take that long. So you're in the field a few hours a day, and then you're going to go home. You're going to do your admin. You're going to do all that paperwork, whatever you need to do. But it's a very predictable 9 to 5 lifestyle. Okay. There's no emergencies. There's no doctors that are going to call you and say, hey, I got a case added on. Or if you're in trauma, you're going to get beeped that you have an emergency. You have to get to the hospital because you're on call this weekend. That's not going to happen. It's very 9 to 5. So it's a much more relaxed, free lifestyle, in my opinion, where your day is basically your own day. Now you're going to have to work with hiring managers every once in a while. So they'll do ride-alongs. A ride-along is where the hiring manager works, sits in the car with you, and spends the day with you. Okay. Ride-alongs for the most part, for the average person in this industry, of course, there's times I love my managers and I like when they're with me, but for the most part, guys, nobody really wants a manager with them. Okay. So that manager will work with them, spend the day. But other than that, your day is to yourself. The manager will be with you for typically it's a 2-day ride-along, and they'll be with you every 6 to 8 weeks. Okay. So at least once a quarter, prepare that you're going to have to work with your hiring manager. They'll write down a bunch of notes. They'll give you things that you need to work on, and they'll give what's called a CPR, coaching progress report. This is what most companies do. And then they'll evaluate you, give you a rating. Typically those ratings and your performance will be how you get an annual raise, and potentially promotions. So they're important. You want to do well in your ride-alongs but at the end of the day, your numbers are everything. Okay. But those are typical days with pharma. I'm simplifying this drastically, guys. Now, device, you are still calling on offices, but typical device, you have a medical device product that you want the doctors to use in a surgery. Okay. So you're going to be spending time in offices, calling on doctors, sometimes in hospitals or surgery centers, calling on doctors. And then you're also going to be doing procedures. Because once a doctor says, yeah, I want to use you, Joe, now you got to schedule that procedure. Now you're going to be in a hospital. Sometimes procedures could be quick. Could be a 20-minute procedure, depending on your device. Then I've worked, when I was working at Stereotaxis, we had some ablations that went on for 7-8 hours. So it could be drastically different. I had days there where I was in, it's Boston Scientific, where you're at hospitals early in the morning. You don't leave. I've been at some hospitals for 8 o'clock cases. You had to be there minimum an hour earlier. You get there at 6:30. You don't leave till 6, 7 at night. Much different animal in terms of the day the time spent. So let's just giving you that broad overview. And now let's talk about what's harder. Okay. So it's not as easy as you think. Most device reps are going to say device is harder. Most pharma reps are going to say pharma's harder. Okay. It's different. It's very different. There's certain aspects that I think are harder in device than in pharma and vice versa. So first off, the day. If you're going to, because there's different types of hard. Like, what are we describing as hard? The day-to-day, for me, 100% device is harder. And for me, getting up early, guys, I get up early, but a lot of people, you don't want to, if you don't have to get up at 5 a.m, most people aren't going to do that. I like getting up early, working out, starting my day. I'm an early person. A lot of people don't like that. So for a lot of people, just the day could be harder because you're going to work more hours in device than in pharma. Again, bring on the questions, the comments. I'm sure a lot of you are going to say that's bullshit. Joe, I work my ass off. I work harder than, let's talk about it, because yours could be a different situation. I'm talking generally, a device rep is going to work harder, a longer day than a pharma rep. I think that's pretty much universal, but I like to hear the one-offs. That's always great to know too. But for the most part, they are going to work harder in terms of the day, the amount of effort they put in. Does that mean it's a harder job? No. So big difference. One of the biggest differences, and if any of you take a point away today, I want you to take this point. It's closing. Closing a sale is much different in device than in pharma. And for me, pharma is definitely harder when it comes to closing because you never actually close in pharma where you leave with the sale. Okay. In device, you do. And let me explain the difference. In device, I walk in there. I have a new, cardiac device. I go to a cardiologist, Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones looks at I give the presentation. We have a lunch, whatever it is. I get to spend a few minutes with him and he's really impressed and goes, you know what, Joe, I like to give this a shot. Okay, perfect. When is your next case to use this cardiac device? I have one next Wednesday, but tell Cheryl, she's my scheduler. I'll let her know too before you leave that I want to book the case with you. So you'll see Cheryl down the hall. Cheryl just booked it with Dr. Jones. He'll usually come in after and be like, hey, Cheryl, I want to use Joe on that AFib case next Wednesday. So put him down. Now Cheryl puts it down. Now you're in the system. Now next Wednesday comes, you do that procedure. At the end, you're going to have to list all the products that you used during that case. Okay. And that's basically your bill. Okay. You're going to get your bill of equipment and drop it off at purchasing. Purchasing, either right on the spot or tell you to come back in a few days, is going to give you a PO, a purchase order. So it's typically just a number. It's a bunch of numbers, a bunch of letters. That's what you're going to put down. That means you actually closed the sale. Once you get a PO, you're done with that sale. That's a sale. You know you made it. I know when I left the office, I have a case booked. That's a great sign. That still doesn't mean I sold anything yet because that case could get canceled. Something could happen with the patient's blood work where it's not good, so they don't want to do the case yet. There could be cancellations in the doctor's schedule, in the patient's schedule. So until you do that case, drop off that bill and get a purchase order, you didn't make a sale yet. But at least you know when you leave there, the doctor committed and you have a firm event that's going to happen, which is that case that you know that you got the sale and you're going to go in there and do that procedure. Okay. So that's more concrete. It's more black and white. Here's pharma. It's different. You're going to go in there, talk to same Dr. Jones. You're going to talk to Dr. Jones about a new cardiac medication. All right. Same procedure. We went in, we booked a lunch. He only sees people during lunch. So we sat down, had a nice conversation. He goes, you know what, Joe? I like your drug. I think I see a lot of benefits. I will definitely try it out for my next XYZ patient that comes in. Right. Now you're going to he gave you a firm commitment. I'm going to use it on my next patient. Great. All right. Now that next patient type may come in later that day, may come in that week. Okay. So you could try certain techniques to get them to commit to that day while you're there. I've tried this. You'll go, okay, great. Well, can you give it to the next patient that walks in? Well, Joe, I don't know if that patient is going to come in that meets this criteria, but I promise when that patient comes in, I'm going to give you my drug. So we call it, you're getting yes to death. Yes, I will use you. All right. So now I leave there feeling good. Say I'm with my manager. The manager's like, hey, Joe, you did a great job. We still don't know if I got someone actually came in that day. I'm going to confirm with that doctor. I'll follow up with you next week to see if you have any feedback from that patient that you're going to give it to know how the drug's doing. You go back a week later, Dr. Jones, did you have a chance to prescribe my drug to any patients? Oh, yeah, Joe, I gave it to a couple. Really? Great. What was the feedback? Well, you know what, Joe? No news is good news. You'll hear this maybe 5,000 times in your career. No news is good news, especially with pharma. Now, they know I have no way of knowing this. I don't. So, yeah, Joe, or they might just outright lie and say, Joe, the patient's doing great. Or they could tell you the truth. Yes, Joe, I gave someone last week, sweet old lady, 84 years old with these comorbidities. So that they're telling the truth, or they're just very good liar at creating a patient up in their head. But we're assuming that that's the truth. I still don't know. There's typically a lag time. Now, you're going to tell me pharma companies, some of you reps out there, our company doesn't have a lag time. We know right away when someone is prescribed that drug. Great. But my point is, when you leave that office, you don't have anything of a firm commitment, a firm sale to know. You don't have a case booked. So you got to go by what the doctor's saying. And that's one of the biggest challenges in pharma. It's called getting yes to death. You feel good when you leave. The doctor knows that too. It's not his first rodeo. He's done this a million times. Reps coming in the door. Yeah, I'm going to try you out. I'm going to try you out too. And he knows that the more that he fights you, because the more that he goes, I'm still not sure, Joe, what's going to happen. Joe's going to sit there with him until I convince him and say yes. So if he says yes, it's an easy way to get me the hell out of the office. All right. So that to me, 100%. And I'd love for any of you device reps out there. Let's get in a debate over this. Pharma is harder, knowing the actual close. Okay. I will outright say that. I believe that. I'm not saying it's harder to get an actual sale. They're both hard. You got to put time in. You got to put work in. You got to add value. You got to find out your physician's key drivers and sell to them. Got to do all that on both sides. But harder to me is pharma to get the actual close because of those yes to death moments. That's what makes it difficult. All right. So I beat this up enough. Put your questions in. Let's talk about it, throughout the call. Next, what's harder in building relationships? 100% pharma. Pharma is more difficult. Okay. Now, again, to give you the scenario why, like we talked about, in pharma, you're walking in and out a lot. You're not sitting side by side like a device rep is, where they can be with doctors for hours during a case. Hours. Now, if some of you have never been in a surgery before, it's not as like on ER or any show that's out there now, Grey's Anatomy, whatever the heck, where they're showing a procedure where it's all serious and everyone is quiet. No one says a word and the doctor's working. All you hear is scalpel, this, that, and they're handing different medical equipment to the doctor. And then the case ends and the patient wakes up and everyone cheers that the patient's alive. It's not that dramatic, guys. A lot of cases are very routine, especially for doctors that are really good. You might hear music playing in the background. Almost all the time you hear music. Doctors that have done procedures many times and are good, they're going to be more relaxed. There were doctors that we would do trivia during the case because that's what relaxed them. So the whole point being, there's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of dialogue. There's doctors sitting there like this. Hey, Joe, what do you got planned for the weekend? Hey, Joe, what's going on? What's up with your Yankees? And you're with them for hours talking about your personal life, talking about their products. I mean, there's times like, hey, while the doctor's suturing at the end, he's closing up the patient. We got a couple minutes. Hey, while we're doing this, let me just explain this to you about my product. Let me show you the comparison between our product and the other products. And I got him there. He's not going anywhere. He's in the surgery. It's not like in the office when they don't want to work with you. They could either tell the receptionist, don't let Joe in the back, or no more reps today. Or if they see you in the hallway, Joe, I'm sorry, today's a crazy day. That's an easy way to get away from me. In an operating room, you're not going anywhere. So they're going to listen. They're going to give you time, but you're also building, you have much more time to build that relationship, to show them that you're actually working with a patient live, and your product not only works, but you also know your shit in the OR. So this builds it makes the relationship very, very strong. So for a pharma rep to go in there and share some clinical data, show a study, talk about different points about their product, it's very hard for them to build that relationship like the reps do. Okay. Now you also got to realize, guys, and this is something that, people don't want to admit, but you come in there. That's why the older I got, I used to start out wearing suits because we had to. Your companies might make you wear suits. Whatever they tell you to do, guys, you got to do. You work for that company. Me, I am not a big wear a suit in an office person anymore. I think it looks ridiculous. I think it's intimidating. I think it's like you're showing up too formal, to a party. It's just like you're going out for drinks with your buddies on a Friday night and your buddy shows up in a suit. You're all going to go with that. Where the hell are you going? Most restaurants don't require that anymore. Very few say jacket required. I think that's the same mentality you got to think of when you're in a doctor's office and you're calling on doctors. I don't see any need to put a suit on anymore because it's very formal. It's like stoic. You want to be more relaxed. I'm not saying come in with jeans on, but business casual to me is fine. A lot of doctors dress business casual, so you come in a suit, it gives a very formal feel. I want it to be more relaxed, more informal, looking like how the doctor looks. A lot of them sometimes they have scrubs on all day. So you'll see a lot of device reps. You'll see them in scrubs a lot. For me, it gives the image that you just came from a surgery or you're going to another hospital. It's very clinical, the look. Okay. So these reps coming in like that, that's just my opinion. I don't think you should come in with those outfits. To me, it gives it more standoffish with the relationship. You don't have to show professionalism isn't shown just by putting a suit on. It's by the knowledge you give, the value you bring. Trust me, if you wear a button down and khakis and you're giving a lot of value in your presentations, you're actually listening to the doctors and what they want, you're going to be able to provide value and show your professionalism, and have nothing to do with what you're wearing. So my whole point being, I got off on a tangent here, guys, but the relationships are always easier to build in device than in pharma. So I feel that what's harder, pharma is definitely harder when it comes to building relationships. Okay. Next, ride-alongs. Ride-alongs, very, very, they're a pain in the ass, guys. I'm going to keep it real. There's reps. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get into your daily routine when you're in the field. Your car might be a little messy. I was never one of these reps. Always keep your car immaculate. This is your office, guys. The best reps that I used to coach, they had their stuff buttoned up, and it should start with your office. Your office is your car. All right. So if you have stuff thrown all over the place, when your manager comes with you, you got your jacket, your kids' football equipment, whatever the heck is in the back seat. I get sometimes it gets away from you, but you want to make sure that you're always organized, especially with your manager, and do this when you're not with your manager, because you don't want to be that rep that's putting on a fake show for the manager and then you're scrambling the night before to clean your car out. Just make this, you're getting good habits, because when you do those ride-alongs suck. You got someone standing over your shoulder. There's a lot of good managers out there that make it collaborative. They work with you. They're not there just to grade you. But there's a lot of managers that sit back and they watch you perform in front of this doctor, put on this show, and it gets uncomfortable. All right. So I don't care what side you're on. I don't think anybody really loves ride-alongs. They like doing their own thing. As long as you're hitting your goal and you're doing well, you don't want someone over you checking boxes to make sure that you're doing everything the way they like it or correctly, whatever the hell they want to put it. So when it comes to ride-alongs, though, I do think it's harder for a pharma rep. Okay. And here's why. Because pharma reps are going in and out of offices. All right. It's to me, a lot of times you'll have reps, and I did this, and I would still recommend that you do this before a ride-along the week before. Go to the offices you're going to bring that manager. Let them know you're coming in with your manager next week. Guys, I hated doing this at first. I was like, no, I'm going to show him a real day. We're going to go and get turned down. We're going to have doctors not show up. I did this. Believe me, managers don't want that. They don't want you to take them to 10 offices that you never spoken to the doctor and you keep getting rejected. They feel it's a waste of time. It's not going to make you look good. Okay, so go in there. I don't care if it is staged that you had to go see a doctor last week and say, hey, by the way, I'm coming in next week with my manager. They get it, guys. These doctors know that it's annoying with the manager behind you. They'll be nicer to you when they know that your manager is coming. They might say the things that's going to make you look good. They always want to do that, guys. They don't want to throw you under the bus in front of the manager. Most doctors, at least, don't want to do that. So go in there and set it up because it's going to make it a more comfortable day working with that manager. But it's harder for pharma reps because you're literally going from office to office to office. Okay. You're constantly just having those conversations that to me were always more awkward. Now, device is different. You could have a case that takes up the whole ride along. It's the conversations are more concrete about seeing a patient, a case coming up. There's more things that basically kill that time when you're with the manager, like cases, or you can meet with patients sometimes, depending on the product, where it breaks up that day where it's not just you with customers having sales conversations all day long. Because sometimes managers are very good with helping you during those processes. But a lot of times it's just uncomfortable because it's someone viewing it. It's having like a teacher grade you as you're in front of your, doing your work. Again, no one wants that. So I always feel it makes it a much tougher conversation when you have someone standing over you where it's just clinical discussion, as opposed to being hands-on, where it's tangible, where you can pull out your device, you can pull out demos and say, hey, last time I noticed it didn't work well. Well, why don't we try doing this? Look at this technique. And it's very visual. They can see it, so the calls aren't as hard to sell someone on because they're not grasping clinical, memorized knowledge, where it's strictly, well, the data shows this and you're showing studies. And it's not as there's nothing tangible for them to touch or play with. They're just looking at the box of a detail aid or the box of the prescription that it comes in. There's not as many there's nothing tangible like they can see with device. So I always felt that those calls were easier and more comfortable. I shouldn't say easier, just more comfortable when you can actually show the doctor something. And on these ride-alongs, I always felt more comfortable on the device side than pharma, because pharma, again, it's not as easy when you're just presenting data, and you're with a hiring manager. So I know I'm going to get people fighting that one. I love it, guys, but that was just my opinion on those ride-alongs. Okay. Now, when it comes to information, again, another one. You're going to have much more compliance issues or challenges in pharma. You're going to get, I can't tell you how many learning modules, continuing education modules that you guys are going to get when you work for whatever pharma company. They have to make sure that you are selling and saying what you're allowed to say. Now, for instance, there's off-label usage a lot in pharma. That's not a secret. Everyone knows that. A doctor can do whatever the doctor feels is best. So it doesn't have to be on label for a doctor to use a product. They're allowed to use products off label. That's their justification. Okay. Now, I am not allowed as a sales rep. If a doctor asks me, and you're going to get tested, guys, sometimes they might really ask this. Sometimes they could be testing you, especially at events like trade shows and all, where people come up to you and they'll ask you, hey, can I use this for XYZ patient? And that's an off-label use. You have to tell them that that's off-label. I cannot promote that. Now, I can call an MSL, a medical science liaison, or another clinician that could come in there, and they're allowed to have off-label conversations. You're not allowed to do that. Okay. That's just one small example of the control that a lot of the pharma companies have over reps, over messaging. It's criticized tremendously by compliance. There's so much compliance that goes into pharma. It's insane, guys. Absolutely insane. One of our old companies, again, I don't mention names, they had a compliance came in and said that anyone that does a lunch, that you can't leave the food there at the end of the lunch. When you leave, you either have to take it with you or get it and throw it out. Because if another individual comes in there that's not a clinician and takes a bite out of one of those sandwiches, you're essentially feeding someone that is not a clinician. So that's using funds inappropriately, and you could be fired. Now, of course, when a lot of reps heard this, they're like, you know what? I can't control that. And I'm not going to get food and throw it out in front of people. That's just rude. And I'm not going to pack up a bag and throw it in a suitcase or something and take it with me. So a lot of reps said, you know what? Take our budgets back. We didn't want to deal with it because there was so much compliance. They're worried about, taking a sandwich home. So they said, forget this. I don't even want to deal with it. So that to me makes it much more difficult to sell. Because there's doctors, they are going to push you guys, and they might not do it on purpose. They might be like, hey, listen, I have a ton of patients that can benefit from this off-label use, and I can start using you right now. Now, this is the challenge, guys, because you want to say yes so badly. You want to say yes, but if you don't listen and God forbid you do say something that is, off-label and you're promoting off-label use, you will be fired. If they find out, you're going to get fired. Okay. Not to say that you could just say anything on the device side, but device doesn't have so much compliance scrutiny on every single word you say. Device is more black and white. Is this appropriate for the patient? Is it going to work? Does it go well? They're going to try it out on the patient. Okay, great. I'll use this again. I like using Joe. It's more factual there. There's a little bit more gray area when it comes to pharma. And again, a lot more compliance in pharma. So to me, it makes it more difficult. Again, there's not one answer that pharma is tougher, device is tougher. You got to look at more, more specifically in situations and which is harder in this situation and what's harder here. And you'll see a lot of challenging, a lot of device reps still say device is definitely harder. We're in the ORs, man. We're in the trenches with these doctors. Yeah, it's true. It doesn't make it harder. I mean, at the end of the day, what is more easier to become number one at a company? That's the goal. All this other stuff is bullshit. It's all about you want to be the best at your company. Typically, the best is going to make more money. I'm here to make money. I'm here to be number one. I'm here to compete. So if anyone could honestly say, it doesn't matter what pharma company I go to, it's so easy to sell there, then I'd love to see that, guys, because I think they're both challenging. They both have their own challenges, but some are harder in certain areas than others are. And that's why I got a little bit more specific. But I'm going to shut up for now. James, I'm going to see if we have any questions from the crowd.
Yeah, we got a couple. Let's see what we got. We got today on LinkedIn, we got Christopher Bless. Hey, hello, Joe. When it comes to device, can you give me insight in the difference between someone in a clinical specialist role versus an associate sales rep/sales rep role?
Okay. That's a great question, Chris. So, excuse me. So the difference between, it's called a CS, they'll say a clinical specialist or a CS, or an associate sales rep. They might call them an AS or whatever, but typically they'll say a CS or an associate. Some companies, and this is a good question because this is what we teach a lot of individuals at the RepPath Academy. You got to know what you're getting involved in. That could be the same role at a company. That title sometimes could be used interchangeably. All right. So a clinical specialist or an associate, it could be 99.9% of the time, they are individuals that are working with a territory manager as support. Okay. And this is, we got to ask, because a clinical specialist role could be all clinical, where all you're doing is covering cases or meeting with patients. You have zero sales responsibility. Okay. And sometimes it could mean, yeah, you got to do all that, but you also have to help that you do get some sales responsibilities, and you might be asked to, to try to grow an account here or grow an account there, and as an associate, again, you need to ask, is this strictly clinical coverage, or is there any sales responsibilities? So they sometimes you could get a small number associated with your name to that you might have to hit too. Okay. Now, most of them will make sure that this is the pre-roll before you get into a territory manager role. So if you do well in one of these positions, that you might be there a year, sometimes a couple years, and then an opening comes up, now you're the first one in line to take over that position, assuming that you've done well in your clinical or your associate's role. But you have to make sure, no matter what title, is that strictly clinical coverage, you're just going to be doing clinical, or do you have any sales responsibility? Make sure you're asking that, because the roles can look very similar, but they also could be very different. So you got to ask that at the beginning. But for the majority of the time, you're covering cases, you're helping an individual, a territory manager, hit their number. And then if they hit their quarterly number, you typically get a bonus, whatever that could be, 10, 20, 5,000, whatever the number is at your company, you'll get a little bonus because you helped your territory manager hit their quota. But that basically sums up those two roles. But make sure you ask the questions about, is this clinical, sales, what's the mix, how does that look? And then also, if it's a clinical specialist role, sometimes that's the role before you become a territory manager. Sometimes it's not. So you could take a clinical role where those roles, there is no progression into sales. It's just strictly clinical. You definitely want to make sure that you're asking those questions in the interview. Like, okay, what does the progression look like? And sometimes they could say, well, you just get annual raises and you could be a senior clinical specialist, or whatever. They'll give a different title. So you want to make sure, okay, but I'm looking to become a territory manager soon. Well, Joe, this role might not be for you. So make sure you're asking those questions, guys, because it's very important if you want to move to depending on what your career is.
Joe, which one has more gatekeepers you have to get through, pharma or device?
Well, it really depends. The quick answer is device, because I'm assuming that there's going to be a hospital component to it. So if you're just calling on doctors in an office for pharma, the typical gatekeepers that you're going to meet, 100% the receptionist. You're going to see a lot of these people don't love when reps come in. As time goes on, the better rep that you become, the more value you bring, you're going to see them starting to smile to you. But at the beginning, you're going to get a lot of like this kind of face. What do you want? No, Joe, he's not here today. Or no, Joe, he's not going to see you. You'll get a lot of that. So you're definitely going to have to deal with a receptionist. You also might have to deal with an office manager, or maybe another clinical, say a nurse or a PA. They might tell you, please, tell Sharon or tell Bob, give him all your information. He'll relay it to the doctor. A lot of times those are the gatekeepers before you see the doctor in the office setting. And that's typically what you're going to face in pharma. You're going to face those same obstacles in device, but now you got to deal with the hospital. And that is a whole nother animal, guys. So after you get your case booked, now the case is booked at, we'll say at Robert Wood Johnson next Wednesday. Now you have to make sure right off the bat that you are credentialed at Robert Wood Johnson. And if you don't get on that now, that moment, or if you weren't already working on it, you might not be able to do the case. So if you're not credentialed, you don't have all your immunizations, you don't have all the continuing education that they want, everything, even submitting your own personal information. They can want all this. You don't have it set up. You could be not set. They cannot have you set up in the system by the time that case happens. Now that's one huge barrier one huge gatekeeper is just the credentialing services. So you're going to have to get credentialed with VendorMate, Simpler, IntelliCentrics, whatever the companies that they keep buying one another. But those are basically the main three right now. You're going to have to make sure you're credentialed at these companies so you have access to the hospitals. And then once you get in and you are credentialed, a lot of them, even when you sign in that day, if that doctor's office didn't put you down as a vendor that's supposed to be covering that case, you might not be in the system. So you still might not have access. Okay. Then you're going to get into the hospital and deal with purchasing. They'll say, well, wait, you're not on our GPO. We can't use you, or believe me, guys, there's so many areas, so much red tape that it's not, I hope a lot of you start working at companies that have all this established. So you just walk in, again, it's a little bit smoother, but a lot of you could come in there and when you're a part of this, it's actually great because it's really going to teach you, real skills and the hard work that it takes to get these products in these hospitals. They don't just happen overnight. So the short answer, device, especially because of the hospital component, and if you're dealing with hospital on the pharma side too, then yes, it's going to be much more red tape. So I guess to back up my answer, it's the area that not so much the pharma device side, it's where are you selling this? So the toughest is going to be the hospitals. That's going to have the most red tape, then the surgery centers, and the easiest, if there is an easy one, is the office-based.
Joe, if you would pick, which one would you pick if you were starting over today?
Device. And the reason being because for my personality, the way I like to, my day-to-day, I like the intensity. I like the unpredictableness, of dealing with the hospitals and the OR. But I had my greatest moments in device I worked hands-on with patients in spinal cord stim, where you saw them after the case. Patients would call me a couple of days later crying out of happiness. I also have patients crying out of sadness that it's not working and they're still in pain, but you want to help them. You see Mary or Susan or Bill or whoever it is that no, I know this person. I know what they're going through. I want to really be able to be there to see them, succeed and do well. So I love that interaction of device. Loved it. I mean, there's days, again, you want to pull your hair out when patients are calling you all night and you just want to go to bed, or it's 2 a.m. and you got a patient calling you, and you don't want to answer the phone, but then you're worried if you don't answer it, he's going to tell Dr. Jones. So that to me, I loved it, even though it was frustrating, but I got bored in pharma because, a lot of the clinical conversations day in and day out, I'm not really seeing patients. I don't have the thrill of working in the operating room. Again, it's good and bad. You could be in those operating room for hours. I didn't love those days either when cases got postponed and I was sitting at the hospital all day. But once the case went on and you're a part of it, they're looking at Joe to provide value, and there's a patient on the table. What decisions you're making affect this patient's life. I mean, to me, there was nothing more exciting than that. So that's why I choose device. But, a lot of you out there for the lifestyle, the 9 to 5, or less, pharma, you're going to be able to go to the gym. You're going to be able to, see your friends. You're going to be able to make it to all those dinners and everything, play golf. Usually whenever, your friends are going out, maybe early on a Friday afternoon, you're going to be able to get out for that because you control your schedule more. So that part of pharma is definitely better. But overall, I just love the device lifestyle.
Tim Gallagher, he wants to know advice for someone interested in transitioning from PT sales to pharma.
Okay. Any advice again, it's if you like that lifestyle and that works for you, I don't know what you're asking, but I got to assume because you didn't give a real question, it doesn't really matter if it's pharma or device, but if you're working in PT, there's a lot of interaction with patients. If you're okay that you're not going to get that, you're just not. I'm sure there's some pharma drugs. And again, we get into rare disease. That's a whole nother animal. So I know some of you are going to, hammer me with the rare disease side. And again, I'm not talking about rare disease. I'm not talking about trying to identify a patient, 1 in a million, much more work that goes into that and education. I get that. I'm talking about the average pharma role. If you're okay, because you're coming from PT, a lot of patient interaction, you're not going to get that in pharma. I see more people do well in PT that went to device because of that interaction. They love that. But if that's not something that you could be wanting to get out of there because you're tired of it, then pharma could be for you. But you got to have just want to make sure you have that understanding that most pharma jobs, you're not going to have that patient interaction. You're going to very rarely have a conversation with a patient. Once in a while, a doctor might say, hey, Joe, can you speak to this patient, educate them on this and that? But for the most part, you're going to tell the doctor, and the doctor is going to make a decision on prescribing that drug or not. So if you're okay with not having that interaction, absolutely. Then that's a good transition from PT to pharma.
In device, you're in the OR during surgery. What does that actually require from you?
To be in the OR?
Yeah, during surgery.
Yeah, you got to have a steady hand, man. Meaning that shit's going to go down, and you're going to have stuff going on with your device, your product. Stuff goes wrong. It happens. It doesn't happen every day. Sometimes you have smooth cases that are like a breeze. Sometimes I didn't know what the heck was wrong. Nothing is connecting. Nothing's working. You're going to be panicking inside. Panicking because you don't know. But you got to troubleshoot and you got to do a calm with a steady hand. You can't sit there and go, oh, I have no idea what's going on. Wait, give me a sec. I'm freaking out right now. What the hell's going on? If you do that, that doctor will never have you come back in that operating room. You got to be just like the physician who is probably having, and they have the real challenges that if their decision is wrong, that patient could die on the table. That's how serious their decisions are and how real it is. They could be panicking sometimes because they don't know what to do next. They can't sit there and go, guys, I'm sorry. Tell that family outside, I got to get the hell out of here. I don't know what the hell's going on. I can't figure this out. That's what makes them doctors. That's why they get paid a lot of money, because they make real decisions, but they got to be calm. So that to me is the biggest challenge, that you got to have that you got to be able to take that pressure, where, if you're okay with that real stuff happening, and you might not know that now, you might not know it till you get into your first procedure, because you could say, yeah, Joe, I love pressure. Give me the ball at the goal line. I mean, this is the kind of shit I would say, of course I want the ball at the goal line. I mean, I want to score the touchdown. I want to be the one that's wins the game. But when it's a patient and stuff is going bad in an operating room and you got to figure it out, so you got to really be prepared, and you got to really love that kind of stress, that kind of pressure, because when you overcome it, there's no greater feeling, because what you did was hard. Not everyone can do it. So you leave with this self-satisfaction every day of accomplishment, that sense of accomplishment that you really did. That to me was the best about being in the operating room. There's a lot that sucks. Cases getting postponed sucks. Patients that blood work comes back, the doctor says, Joe, you know what? We can't do this case. Sometimes patients not paying attention to eating and drinking before a case. I've had that happen. Now, it has nothing to do with you. Patient ate earlier that day. They can't do the case. Now you don't hit your number because it's the last day of the quarter. Happens. Sucks. Okay, so these are all negatives about the operating room. But overall, again, I think the pros outweigh the cons. Just got to have the one thing. You got to have that strong, steady hand and that strong stomach to be able to handle all this.
We have Celine Zangha. Is there a stark difference in pay between pharma and device, given device requires longer hours?
At the beginning, you're going to get, typically, if we're going to look at a first year, device and pharma. Okay. A couple of things you guys need to know. For some of you you're probably getting frustrated out there. Some of you that are just graduated college or are coming from a new field and you want to get into either or, but I want to get into pharma. All right. If you don't, most companies, Pharma is different where they have a couple more, requirements. And again, I'm not talking about local mom and pop or the story that you might know about a friend. Most pharma companies want a 4-year college degree and then at least 1 year of B2B sales experience. Not every time. I'm going to say 99% of the time, that's what they want. Okay. I definitely never met a pharma company that would hire someone without a college degree. I just haven't met someone yet. I haven't met a company I've worked with, and I've worked with tons of them, and most of them want that year of B2B. Now, device, a lot of them want that too. That doesn't mean though that if you don't have your degree or sales experience, you're not getting in. No, but I would start with device first because that's going to be there's going to be more opportunities for individuals that don't have that sales experience than on the pharma side. But if you're comparing apples to apples, starting salaries, typically pharma is going to be a little bit higher base. In most roles, pharma usually pays a higher base, and then they don't give as high of a commission, or they don't give commissions at all. They give quarterly bonuses. So a couple starting companies that I'm working with, they'll pay on average, say 65 base and another 20, 25 to 30 in bonuses. That's for pharma. And then on the device side, they might start off at like 50 or 55, but you get commissions on what you sell. Or if you're an associate, you're helping cover a territory, working under a territory manager. And if they hit your goal, you're going to get $10,000 a quarter as your bonus. So I'd say starting out, they're both the average nationwide guys combined in both sides is 98,000. So you'll hear a lot of coaches say you're going to start off at 6 figures. That's fair because you're basically making that 100,000. That's a combination of bonuses, of base salary and bonuses and or commissions. So that's everything lumped in. That doesn't count the company car, the car allowance, the cell phone allowance, the medical, dental, vision, 401k, expense account, entertainment budget. That doesn't count all that. So these are amazing jobs on both sides. But I would say on average, you're going to get 10 to 15,000 more base for a pharma company than in device, but you'll be right around that 100,000 all in. And then moving forward, there's many more, it's about 8% of all reps make over 300,000. Okay. It's not easy. You're going to hear a lot of people, oh, Joe, I know a ton of people that make over 300. Great. I'm talking about the nationwide averages. It's about 300,000 is made by, under 10% of all sales reps. The majority of them though, definitely come from the device side. So if 300,000 is your number, that's your goal, and your goal could be 100,000, it could be 50. Everyone's different. But those higher numbers, when we get to 300 plus, there are some reps out there on both sides. There's definitely way more than I know on the device side that make those higher, total all in. And just as one last piece of advice, guys, whenever you're going for any interviews, you want to focus on the whole package. Because a lot of you are going to get lured in to jobs that at the end of the day, you find that aren't that glamorous because they pay a higher base salary. These companies know that, guys. They know if they get you in there, giving you an extra 10, 15,000 more in the base, everyone wants that guarantee. But I've seen so many, the top paying reps, they have low base salaries, but they crush it in their commissions. So if you're a real salesman and you guys really feel that you could kick ass, don't focus all on that base salary because it's gonna pigeonhole you into these jobs that you may not be that glamorous. I'd rather see you go for that overall, the overall comp, because that's where the most money is going to be made. Don't chase after the base salaries.
We got Joe, is it true that pharma reps basically have no real access to doctors anymore?
No, I mean, that's not true. That's just not true. It's exaggerated. Has it gotten worse over the years? Absolutely. I mean, when I first started, majority of the offices, and there were still a lot of offices that didn't see you, but, everyone likes percentages. I would say then about 60% of my offices, I can go in there that day and at least say hello to the doctor. I might get 5 seconds, but I at least could see the doctor, get them to sign, which is another big plus, side note, guys. A lot of times, back in the day, and it changes over the years, because signing for signatures, again, quick little, swipe of their iPad of their, stylist, has changed that. But you used to get time with doctors just by them signing the samples that you're leaving. Even if it was 5 seconds, as they're signing, they usually say, "Hey, how's your day going?" And you'd be like, "Great. I just want to let you know, doctor." And you could ask a question or, give a tidbit of information and actually get time with the doctor. So that definitely is a little bit more advantageous to the pharma side, because there is no signing for anything for device. You're not signing for leaving a device there. So it's different than leaving samples. But I said a mind freeze. The original question we were talking about, James, help me out here, buddy.
The original question. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, sorry, man.
No, it's all good. I gotta find it. Is doctor access for pharma reps is
yeah. So it's sorry, the doctor access, it has changed on both sides. Pharma, yes, it's tougher, so it has gone down. But guys, this is why you got to really realize, what are you getting into? Okay, because it's not like on TV. You watch movies. Here's my movie reference, James. It's not really a reference, but it's a movie.
5 weeks later.
I know, I got to give something. But it's not a funny line. It's just Love and Other Drugs. It's with Jake Gyllenhaal. That came out maybe like 15 years ago or 20 years ago. It's comical. It's about Viagra. So there's some things that are real in it. And then the majority of it is completely exaggerated, especially you'll see doctors like jumping up and down to get their Viagra samples. I mean, that's comical, but you'll see that it's going to be glamorized then in the movie, but it's nothing like that in the movies, guys. A lot of these doctors, they don't want to see you. Okay. Until you build that relationship, build that value at the beginning, it's hard. So you got to realize no matter what side you're on, it's going to be tough, but the best reps are able to overcome that lack of access, because access is going to be your number one challenge. It's not rejection. Rejection is awesome. Rejection is great. And the reason why it's great, it means someone talked to you. That means you could get in front of someone. Get me rejected 9 out of 10 times. I know I can come back, but ignore me. It's like when you guys are looking at all you guys that are frustrated out there, not getting ghosted, when you're sending resumes over, that's much more frustrating than a manager calling you up and saying, "Hey, Joe, by the way, here's why we didn't hire you." I think all of us would take those calls every day, because now you got a chance to discuss it, and handle an objection. So you got to be prepared for that. It's that lack of access, guys, no matter what side you're on, and both get tougher and tougher. So if you're okay with that, then this is for you. If not, this is not the field for you.
Okay. Joe, when you mentioned Jake Gyllenhaal, I got a little nervous that you were going to reference Brokeback Mountain, knowing your taste in movies.
Never seen Brokeback Mountain, actually.
Oh, shocker. We have Paolo Retegui. More opportunities for growth in device versus pharma.
That's a tough one. I mean, I would say, it depends on the company, because I know reps that have been doing the same job for 30 years, and they're content. And some, they just really haven't had much growth opportunities in their career. So they're always a sales rep. But if you're doing well, it doesn't matter. You could do well and get promoted in any job, in any industry. There's not one that's easier. Don't go into device thinking that, there's more growth opportunity. It's the company specific. So you got to understand that. And that's the pros and cons of big pharma, big device versus small mom and pops. The big device, big pharma, you're going to see all those positions and all that area you can grow, and then device could be, startups can be, you can this company could be gone next week, and there's no real hierarchy. But again, look at those first. Don't look at, I'm going to get into this industry. Don't make that decision of why. Don't make that the reason why you pick an industry to go into. Both have growth opportunities. weigh it more on what we talked about, that day-to-day lifestyle. What do you want to do on a daily basis? Because if you don't enjoy doing that, who cares about promotions? You're never going to get there. You will not be successful if you don't like what you're doing on a daily basis. So I would weigh that out because the opportunities are going to be there on both sides.
Well, we got a couple more questions, but we're at time. Do you want to keep going?
We'll do one more.
All right, cool. Celine, she goes, how do I figure out which medical device specialty is best for me? There are so many options like orthopedics, anesthetics, etc. I'm not sure how to choose.
Yeah. And again, this is something else that we help at the RepPath Academy, because we get deeper into this with you to really find out your needs. The questions you got to ask yourself, do you want to be in operating rooms, a certain, all day long? You want, what is it that you like, and the only way to really know that is having conversations with reps where there are openings and you're getting involved. You got to do your research, guys. I mean, there's so much information now. You could Google anything. You could chat GPT anything. Do that though. Put that time in. Start observing cases. Start observing things. Like, what are you passionate about? Usually, this is a great way, and this is what we work on at the Academy, is knowing your why. Okay, this is a big reason why a lot of reps don't get hired. A lot of you think you have a good resume, good background, but you're like, I don't know why these managers don't think I'm a good fit and I never move forward. It could be your why. And that's what you're asking. And that her name was Celine. I'm sorry. But whoever asked that question, that comes back to knowing your why. And then you're able to choose your position. And that's what we'll help you with. Once we know your why, then we can get opportunities that match what you're looking for. As opposed to a lot of reps, when they do it on their own, they don't really know what they're doing, what they're getting into. And then they're choosing these companies because no one's there to guide them. That 6 months down the line, like, I hate this shit. I don't want to do this. I wanted something else with less OR requirements. I don't want to work with patients every day. I like just getting in and selling, so that's going to change, how you view this industry if you get into something that you don't really want. So again, we can assist with that. And we'll do one more, James. I'm sorry. If someone else has a question, we can address one more if it's there.
I'm not sure if this is a question, but it's something. IYO, sorry. Which company pharma or device is better at giving the rep content, studies, outcomes, testimonial, case studies, and other hook-like information the rep can use to build rapport with their target?
It depends on the company. So that typically is going to be big versus small. So big pharma, big device, of course, they have more money. They're going to put more money into marketing. They're going to put more money into research. They're going to have a lot more data for you to go out there and actually sell. So this is a big challenge. A great question, by the way. It's Dolores. I think it's hard to read from here. Dolores, thank you for the question. It's a great question because this is something that a lot of reps get into. I want to go to a startup. And startups, again, they hear about a friend that started a startup and now was a part of it from the ground up, and they sold it and they made millions, or the product really took off, they made millions. But one of the biggest challenges is a lot of startups, they don't have the resources that the big companies have. So when you come from a big company and then go to a startup, and then a doctor is, you're looking for marketing material that helps you sell your product and you don't have it, you have nothing but the actual device. A lot of times you walk in there, say, this is my device, and be like, this is it. This is what I got. This is my marketing. This is my studies. This is everything. You have nothing, and it makes it very challenging. So it's not for everyone, for those smaller companies, but it's not a pharma and device thing. Typically it's the size of the company. But again, this is where we're always coaching to have conversations in your networking. Don't just network just to network. I mean, it's good to learn about the industry and all that's great. But once you have a focus and know like, oh, this is interesting, that's when you get on the phone and have those conversations with those reps, with the managers, whoever's at that company, so they can give you a real day-to-day of what you're going to experience, because that's the key. But usually bigger is going to have more than those smaller companies, whether it's device or pharma.
Awesome, Joe. If you guys had any questions that we didn't get to today, make sure you shoot Joe a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram. He'll be sure to get to all of them.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you, James. And thank you all for those questions, guys. A lot of great questions. Again, if we missed it, shoot me a DM and I'll get back to you. For anyone, again, if you want to see this recording, go to Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching on YouTube so you can get this. And then also subscribe. It's free, guys. You'll be able to get all the material that we come out with, which is a ton. For any of you that you see my YouTube, we got a ton of material in there. And then more importantly, individuals that you guys have a lot of great questions, and these questions show individuals that do need the RepPath Academy. I'm not embarrassed to say I am here to get you to join this academy because I know the value that you guys will get once you join. And I want to save you that time and minimize the frustrations that you have. That's the reason why most people give up on this journey. They get frustrated. And that's what we're here to stop, guys. So get on RepPath.com. You'll learn more. And then we'll be able to schedule a call via my LinkedIn page where if you're interested and you are a fit and you're qualified, we want to have a conversation to tell you more, everything you need to know and get you signed up for the academy. So please do that. Lastly, any lobby members, as always, please give the promo code Licata, Licata, so that could get you additional discounts. But I want to thank everyone again for joining us. As always, guys, we're here every Monday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Our next call will be this Wednesday. So I hope everyone joins us then. And you guys have a great week. Thanks for joining, guys. Take care.